I used to live in a quiet apartment building in Chicago. 6 floors, no elevator, and the kind of neighbors who keep to themselves. My unit was on the 5th floor, right next to 6B. But for the first few months, I never saw anyone go in or out of that apartment. I figured it was empty, maybe under renovation, maybe just storage, until I started hearing someone in there. Around 3 a.m., I'd wake up to the sound of furniture dragging, not violently, just this long, slow scraping noise, like someone was moving a dresser an inch at a time. It happened maybe twice a week, always between 3 and 4 a.m. Eventually, curiosity got the better of me. One night, when I heard it, I stepped into the hallway and listened at the door of 6B. The sound stopped. I knocked gently. No answer. I pressed my ear to the door. I swear, I could hear breathing. Not close, not loud, just steady, slow breathing, like someone was standing still on the other side of the door. The next morning, I asked the landlord about it. He looked confused. 6B, he said. That unit's been empty since last year. No one's renting it. I told him what I heard. He said I must have been mistaken, offered to let me peek inside just to prove it. That afternoon, he unlocked the door. The place was empty, like completely. No furniture, no light bulbs, dust on the windows. It didn't even smell like a lived-in space, but something caught my eye. In the far corner of the room, pressed against the wall, was a single scratch on the hardwood floor. A long curved scrape, like a chair or a dresser had been dragged, exactly to where I'd imagined it. I didn't sleep well after that. A few nights later, I woke up at 3:17 a.m. again, not from a noise, from a feeling that someone was watching me. I rolled over in bed and saw it, a shape, outside my window, 5th floor, fire escape. It looked like a man, just standing there. His face was pale, mouth slightly open, hands hanging at his sides, still as a statue. He didn't knock, didn't move, just stared. I didn't breathe, didn't move, just slowly reached for my phone and called 911. When I looked back, he was gone. Cops came, searched the fire escape, no sign of him. But when we checked the building's security footage, there was something. At 3:13 a.m., a man had entered the stairwell from the basement, not through the front, through the locked maintenance door. He walked up to the 5th floor and disappeared near my apartment. They never identified him. The footage after that hour was missing, just static. A week later, I moved out. The last thing I did before locking the door one final time, I slid a note under the door of 6B. It just said, "If you're in there, please stop moving the furniture, or at least say hello." I used to go camping alone, not because I didn't have friends. I just liked the quiet. I liked hearing the wind in the trees, the crackling of the fire, the kind of silence you can't find anywhere near a city. I had a favorite spot too, deep in the woods, off an old ranger trail nobody used anymore. The path was barely visible, mostly just flattened leaves and the occasional faded marker nailed to a tree. But if you followed it for long enough, past the ridgeline and across a shallow stream, you'd find it. A clearing just big enough for a tent, with a handmade fire pit, a circle of moss-covered stones someone had left behind years ago. It was perfect. No cell signal, no headlights, no people, just me and the woods. I'd been there maybe 6 or 7 times, every trip peaceful, until one night in October. I parked just before sundown and made it to the clearing by twilight. The air was sharp, cold enough to see your breath, but not enough for snow. I pitched my tent, laid out my sleeping bag, and got a small fire going. Dinner was a can of beans, a granola bar, and a flask of bourbon. Around 9 p.m., the woods got quiet, unnaturally quiet. No insects, no birds, not even the usual rustling of critters in the underbrush. I tried to brush it off. Maybe it was just the season. Maybe the animals had hunkered down. Around 10:30, I was getting ready to turn in when I saw it. A light, maybe 50 yards through the trees, orange low, flickering. Another fire. I froze. I hadn't seen or heard anyone all day. I would have heard footsteps, voices, dogs, something. But there it was, a warm glow between the trunks. My first thought was another camper. My second was, maybe I should say hi, just to let them know someone else was nearby. So I grabbed my flashlight and walked toward the glow. I didn't call out, not yet. I wanted to see first. The deeper I went, the stranger it got. The light wasn't flickering like a fire. It was steadier, cold-looking, almost blue. And then I saw it. Hanging from a tree branch, about 6 feet off the ground, was an old lantern, glass, rusted frame, faintly glowing, but no fire, no smoke, no heat, no one around, no footprints, no tent, just the lantern, swaying slightly as if it had just been hung. I stood there for a long moment. The forest felt heavy, like it was holding its breath. Finally, I reached up and touched the lantern. It wasn't warm, but the glass vibrated, like a low hum under a surface. And then I heard it. A single snap behind me, a twig, clean and sharp. I spun around. Nothing. Just black trees and the shape of my own breath in the cold air. I turned back, and the lantern was gone. No glow, just empty space and a branch swinging softly in the air. I ran. I didn't care about stepping quietly. I sprinted back toward the clearing, half tripping over roots, the flashlight beam bouncing wildly. When I reached my camp, something was off. My fire was out, not smoldering, out, like it had been doused. And my tent, gone, not collapsed, not torn, gone. In its place was a lantern, the same one, hanging from the exact tree I'd tied my gear to, still glowing. My name was scratched into the bark beside it. I had never done that. I didn't stay. I didn't even gather my stuff. I left everything, ran back to the trail in the dark, got in my car and drove until I saw streetlights again. The next day, I returned with a friend. In daylight, the clearing looked normal. No lantern. My tent was there, untouched. Firewood stacked. Sleeping bag still sipped. But I swear the trees felt closer, like the clearing had gotten smaller overnight. I haven't camped since. I don't go near woods without a crowd. When I was 12, I spent the summer with my aunt in a quiet little town, the kind with one gas station, one diner, and not much else. She lived on a cul-de-sac where all the houses looked the same, except one. Across the street, tucked behind overgrown hedges and a crooked mailbox, was a house the neighborhood kids called the fan house. I asked why. They said, because the fan never turns off. Second floor, right window, always spinning. I didn't believe them at first, but they were right. Every night, around 9 p.m., the light in that room would flick on, a pale yellow glow. And behind the curtain, the silhouette of a box fan, spinning, slow, constant, even during a thunderstorm that knocked out power to the whole street. The fan was still turning. I thought maybe someone lived there. A shut-in maybe. Someone sick. My aunt said no one had owned that house for years. Not since the family disappeared. I asked what happened. She said they packed up one night and never came back. Left dinner on the table, every light on, but the fan was still running. One night, just after midnight, I woke up thirsty. I went to the kitchen for water, and as I passed the window, I looked out. The fan was spinning, but the light in the room was off. Just a fan, glowing faintly from inside. That was the first time I saw the shadow behind the fan. Not in front, not blocking it, but through it. A figure, thin, long arms, head tilted at an angle like it was listening. I blinked. The figure was gone. The fan kept spinning. I stopped sleeping well. After that, a few nights later, I saw something worse. I was sitting on the porch just before bed, trying to cool off. I looked across the street, and for the first time, the fan stopped completely. And in the dead quiet of that summer night, I heard it. My name, whispered from somewhere across the street. I froze, listened, heard it again. Not from the window, from the hedges in front of the house. Something was standing there, watching, repeating my name, in a voice that sounded almost like my mother's, but not quite. Like something trying to sound familiar and failing. I ran inside, locked every door, pulled the curtain shut. The next day, I made my aunt drive me to the next town. I told her I didn't feel good. I didn't tell her why. She thought it was just the heat. That was years ago. The house is still there. The fan still spins. But sometimes, when I dream, I see that room. Not the outside, inside. The curtains peeled back, the fan broken on the floor, and something long and raw in the corner, waiting, breathing too slow to be human, whispering a name I haven't told anyone in years.